And what you said in the episode was if we all just did the right thing,
Mhm.
what a world this would be. And instead of sort of sitting on the sidelines and complaining, what if we all got involved and did something to positively impact the world? And you almost phrased it as being engaged is the price of admission to living on the planet. So get engaged.
Absolutely. I mean, we can have such an impact on other people's lives, on the world around us. And something that I've had to come to terms with that, my cause may not be your cause. My cause may not be, my next door neighbor's cause, but we all feel strongly about something. So find that thing that you're, saying, oh gosh, well, why is this or why is this? Okay, well, instead of spending that 5 minutes hemming and hawing and making a Facebook post about it, what can you do to mobilize around it?
Hello and welcome to At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a multimedia platform where story by story, we explore the resiliency of the human spirit with people who are using their own personal journeys to leave a positive and transformative imprint on our world today. At the Podium holds a space for meaningful conversation, inspiration, and life. Today, I'm thrilled to share the podium with Delia McLinden. Delia McLinden is the co-founder and vice president of sales and business development of McKinney, Texas-based natural and organic skincare company, Farmhouse Fresh, bringing the company's award-winning We Grow So Your Skin Glows farm to treatment products to luxury spas from Dallas to Dubai. In the early days of Farmhouse Fresh, Delia and her sister-in-law, Farmhouse Fresh founder and CEO Shannon McLinden, decided that someday the company would have an active animal rescue component. Today, Farmhouse Fresh has a Rescue for Two mission, rescuing your complexion and rescuing animals in need. At their headquarters, the company operates a 501c3 Farmhouse Fresh farm animal sanctuary with 46 farm animals, all coming from cruelty and neglect cases. 10% of all Farmhouse Fresh profits go towards the sanctuary, in addition to other animal rescue efforts across the country. Delia's personal pastime and passion is shelter dog rescue. After being active in dog rescue volunteer activities for 20 plus years, Delia founded Archangel Animal Network in 2019, a 501c3 nonprofit focusing solely on shelter dog rescue transport. In a few short years, Archangel Animal Network has saved nearly 5,000 shelter dogs from areas of high pet overpopulation in Texas. They are transported to rescue partners across the country where they are adopted into loving homes. In 2023, Delia embarked on a journey to examine and change her relationship with alcohol. She credits this difficult but eye-opening lifestyle change as the biggest awakening in her life to date. Delia now holds a certification as a mindset and alcohol-free living empowerment coach. Delia graduated from Texas Christian University and currently resides in Texas with her husband Scott, 16-year-old son Sawyer, and their rescue pit bulls, Leo, Tessa, and Todd. Delia, welcome back again to At the Podium.
Thank you, Patrick. Oh, we were just saying it's been 3 years since we first talked and at the podium, season one.
You were in that first round of guests from season one. I cannot believe it's been 3 years already.
I know. What an amazing journey you've had and so many different people and stories and it's been incredible and it's been a joy to watch it too.
It was a real joy to have you on. I think the work that you're doing in animal rescue, which we'll talk about today, really moved people. I think people have a real passion for animals in our country and how you talked about in the work that you were doing that you're giving voice to the voiceless. That was a very powerful statement.
Yes, and it just rings so true. I mean, even more so today. And I feel so passionate about it still.
Because you rescued, when we talked last time, your 501c3 had rescued about 2,000 dogs. And now it's up to 5,000 or
Almost
more.
5,000. Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh. It's amazing to hear that number. I remember the first year when I started it, I thought, okay, I'll be happy if we can do 500.
Mm,
And now we're at 5,000, but still it doesn't feel like enough. And that's what I struggle with all the time. That's 5,000 lives who wouldn't otherwise be here. And, their lives are turned upside down, but it still doesn't feel like enough. And that's a struggle with, anytime you're working with a cause or an advocacy,
mm.
it always feels like there's so much more to do.
Where is the challenge? We're talking about dogs that are in shelters about to be euthanized. You're rescuing them and finding them homes across the country. And is it just because people don't understand what it takes to have a pet, or there's a divorce and they don't know what to do with the dog, or the owner dies? I'm sure there are many circumstances, but this seems to be a real problem.
It is such a problem, and I think that most people don't realize it.
Mm,
Um, Really, the huge enormity of it, especially in areas, southern states. It's everything that you just said, compounded by the fact, during COVID, a lot of people said, "Oh, I'm now at home. I'm not traveling. My life has changed. Oh, now's the time. I'm going to adopt a pet."
yeah.
So they adopted a pet or purchased a pet or whatever, and then things changed and now they're back at work. And they're like, "Oh, well, my pet's now tearing up my house. My pet's going to the bathroom in the house. I can't give it the exercise it needs. Oh, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore." And they'll bring it back to an already full shelter or want to get rid of it. So it's always been a problem, but the landscape has changed even more. And for groups like mine, Archangel Animal Network, we are searching for rescue groups in different areas of the country. I'm in Texas, and we're searching for places, in the Pacific Northwest, East Coast, Midwest, that will take the dogs that are languishing in Texas shelters. But now what has happened is those groups are getting full, and
Mm,
they no longer have the space where they can say, "Oh yes, we'll take 30 dogs a month." So it's just this cycle, and it's harder than ever.
mm,
But I feel so strongly about keeping at it because there are voiceless lives depending on us.
mm. What is the relationship between the designer breed dogs and the dogs that are probably in these shelters? How is that dynamic impacting this whole flood in the market of pets and dogs particularly?
Yes. Oh, this is one of my yeah, this is a hot topic, a hot topic. The doodle craze. Yes. There's always been this perception, I feel like, that a designer dog, or a dog that, somebody can say, "Oh, I want that. I want a dog that looks like that." There's always been this perception that that's something better.
Hmm.
When that's not the case. I mean, it's just, it's more like the fact that you can say, "Oh, I want that." That's like sort of picking out like a handbag or a pair of shoes or something like that. It's not looking at the heart and the soul of the animal. But there's been this craze of designer breeds, which are essentially mixed breeds. But what's happening now, we've seen a huge surge, and people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, for them. And then, just like the same with any other pet, they have the same issues as a dog from a shelter. If you don't train them, if you don't give them the time and exercise that they need, and they're ending up in shelters. So now
Hmm.
we're seeing it all come full circle, and we're seeing this whole craze of the designer breed. For a long time, breeders thought, "Oh, I can make a lot of money, so I'm going to churn them out, and I'm going to churn them out." And now the desire, or the demand has slowed. So
Mm.
now they're dumping those dogs with rescues and in shelters, and it has just flooded the entire animal welfare system. There is absolutely no reason to purchase a dog when so many great ones exist, and cats too. I'm not speaking for cats because I'm a dog person, but cats too. There's no reason to purchase anything when just these amazing creatures, exist in shelters and rescues.
Is it a financial issue? Like if dogs stop being bred today, would there be a shortage of pets for people? How would
Great
that impact
question.
the market?
There would absolutely not be a shortage if all breeders stopped breeding dogs and people then had to go to these breed specific rescue groups. If they wanted, an Irish setter, then they go to an Irish setter rescue group instead of a breeder. Those exist for every breed out there. It would probably cut the amount of euthanasias that are having to be done because of the animal overpopulation problem in half. It's big money.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's counterintuitive because we think, oh, people love their pets. And then there's a real economics to this that doesn't really get talked about that
there
often.
is. And I think most people don't realize the enormity of this. I mean, think about it, in our daily lives, unless you're in it. I mean, I'm in it and probably in it too far, but no, but you don't see that. I mean, most people are not going into a shelter. They're not seeing the lines of people surrendering pets to an
Mm.
already full shelter, and the shelter is like, I where am I going to put that? I don't have any place to put this until, I mean, I'll have to euthanize another one that just came in order to make room. So people don't see this. And I think if honestly, if all the people who said, oh, this is what I want, this is the type of dog or cat or whatever that I want, if they would first go to a shelter and walk through a shelter and literally look in some of the eyes of those animals, meet them, spend a little time with them, take them out into a play yard, they would realize, like, this is a companion just like any other companion, and this
Mm.
one's life is on the line. Why can't I choose this one? Maybe it doesn't have this type of fur. That's okay. I mean, I look at it, none of us are, we come out how we come out, and with our
Mm.
with our issues, our flaws, or whatever. Nothing is perfect, but it's choosing something that really needs a second chance. And
Mm.
I mean, we should all be for advocating for second chance. We all want a second chance. I want a second chance. I
I
mean,
want a third, fourth, fifth, sixth
yes,
chance.
yes,
I really
yes,
do. When you sent me your bio, at the very end of the bio, there is a Dr. Seuss quote. I love this quote because it echoed so much what we talked about the first time.
yes.
And what you said in the episode was if we all just did the right thing,
Mhm.
what a world this would be. And instead of sort of sitting on the sidelines and complaining, what if we all got involved and did something to positively impact the world? And you almost phrased it as being engaged is the price of admission to living on the planet. So get engaged.
Absolutely. Whatever
Uh,
it is, whatever
What,
you're.
whatever it is, whatever. But the quote from Dr. Seuss was, "You can do something big, or you can do something small. But whatever you do, it is better than nothing at all." I love that. Why is that so important to you?
Oh, I just love that. And look, I'm so happy to talk about this, and I feel so strong. I'm like tearing up this whole time because it means so much. That quote means everything to me because we all, I mean, we can have such an impact on just daily lives, on other people's lives, on the world around us. And something that I've had to come to terms with, that my cause may not be your cause, my cause may not be my next door neighbor's cause, but we all feel strongly about something. And another quote that I love is, if you have time to complain about something, you have time to do something about it. So find that thing that you're, saying, oh gosh, well, why is this or why is this? Okay, well, instead of spending that 5 minutes hemming and hawing and making a Facebook post about it, what can you do to mobilize around it? And it's just such a powerful thing that each of us we can do something, and it will trickle down, and it goes from person to person. And I think that we don't really recognize that we
Mm.
all do. You know, some people say like, oh well, I'm just one person. And if 7 million people said, I'm just one person, and they're all doing something, what an amazing difference the world would be. Yes. So it all comes back to whatever you do, better than nothing at all.
You know, it's so interesting because this podcast was born out of me feeling like I just felt so helpless. That was back in 2020, 2021. I just felt so helpless with all that was happening in the world and the political situation and the financial situation and the health situation we were in. And I was like, if I can just do this one thing, it may only move the needle from here to here, but it's something to not feel stuck.
Yes. Yes. But look at that. And now look at all the stories that have been told at the podium. And someone hearing somebody else's story inspires them or touches them. And they say, well, if that person can do that, I can do it. If that person, was able to figure that out with everything they have on their plate, why couldn't I? And it just ignites something. So it's
Yeah.
so important. It's so important.
Well, it's true. And I think we all live in a time of the problems are really big, right? And they're complex. But if you think about it, the problems have always been big and they've always been complex. And yet people took action. People found a way. And again, everything doesn't have to happen on a huge stage. But and maybe the more we focus on doing actions with our neighbors and within our communities, we may see even more tangible results that impact us in a real way on the day to day.
Absolutely. Well, and you bring up a good point too, what you just said. The problems have always been big. I mean, they may have been different
Yeah.
before than the problems are now, but there've always been something. If the people who didn't mobilize to do something, we'd still have those same problems that we, dealt with decades and centuries ago. So
Yeah.
it's a shift in problems, but it's all still the same dynamic. Yeah.
About a year ago, I ran into you at a business event and you said to me that you had stopped drinking. And people may not realize this, but wellness people drink a lot, which is totally counterintuitive, but there is so much alcohol consumed. We should look at that as an industry. We should be
Yes.
looking at why alcohol is such a huge part of our socializing and how we interact. But I was so moved that you even trusted me enough to tell me that, but that you had made that decision. And I have two
Yes.
questions related to that. My
Yeah.
first question is, why did you make that decision? And my
Good
second
question.
question is, which may be a little more nuanced, is did you consider yourself an alcoholic when you made that decision?
Oh, great questions. Great questions. Okay. So wait, what was the first question? Why did I
Why?
stop?
Why? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
why?
I got hung up on the second one. Um, so I realized for a long time that I was caught in a cycle, and it was a socially acceptable cycle. But for years, I spent a lot of time thinking, okay, I need to do something about I don't feel well. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. And on the outside, if you would look at me on social media or see me at a wellness industry event or a work podcast, it would look like I had it all together. But inside, I was going through the motions and using alcohol as my coping mechanism, leading such a busy, fast paced, check it off the list, life, highly productive, highly functioning. But at the end of the day, felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. And the only coping mechanism that I had was alcohol. And I got, again, if you would look at me from an outside perspective, you wouldn't think anything was wrong. But I knew that something had to change. I was caught in a cycle of, doing everything I thought I should do during the day. And then at night saying, oh my God, like I've got to like escape from this. I've got to escape. I've got to get out of my mind. I've got to get out of this, this stress, this feeling of I need to do more and more and more. And I would drink. And I realized that not only I was drinking as a coping mechanism, I was also drinking to celebrate. I was drinking when I was bored and not sure how to feel. It was like everything was wrapped up with drinking. And I'm saying drinking, but other people might have, it might be eating or, social media compulsion, take whatever your coping mechanism is. I tried for a long time. I tried, thinking, okay, if I just drink on the weekends, or if I just have 2 drinks, or if so much mental energy. And I was having a conversation with somebody and they said, not everybody spends that much mental energy trying to control their drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of a light bulb for me. I mean, that was a good friend who said that. Like, I don't even give alcohol a thought. If I want to drink, I have one. If I don't, and I was like, oh, well, that's different. That's not how I think. So I decided to do a dry January. And that was the kind of the impetus of like, okay, I'm not making a grand proclamation. I'm just taking a break. And then when you take away your coping mechanism, you realize there are a whole lot of other things to address, a whole lot of other things. Yeah. Whew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did realize, I did feel like, yes, I was am an alcoholic, was an alcoholic. I don't know. The label thing, I struggle with that because it's like, I could also say, am I an alcoholic? Maybe, but I'm also a mom. I'm also a dog rescuer. I'm all of these things. But I did start attending Alcoholics Anonymous in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found some other programs that resonated with me more. And I really started to unpack, I mean, just take away I don't think I ever had physical dependence, but when you take away the thing that you're relying on to get through the day and the thing that you're using so heavily to numb and escape, then you have to deal with all the other stuff. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I gotta keep going on this journey. It's more important to me to continue to figure this out than just say, oh, take a break and then go back to all that other stuff. So yeah, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most impactful for my growth as a person and figuring out who I am. What do I like? What do I do with feelings? What do I do now that I have a bad, stressful day? How do I celebrate without alcohol? All of these things, it's like creating a new life.
There's so much there that I want to talk
So
to you.
much. I know.
The first is I feel you on the labels. And in the work that I do outside of the podcast, and we'll talk about being a multi-hyphenate later, but I see a lot of people choosing to live sober lives, not because they even have an issue with alcohol, but because they feel like there are other ways to spend my time. There are other ways to spend my money. There are other ways for me to be able to cope, socialize, etc. I mean, there are movements now all around sober living that have nothing to do with what your label is in terms
Mhm.
of being an alcoholic or not being an alcoholic. When I interviewed McCord Henry in the first season, who is, and he says he's living recovered, he too had very strong opinions about these labels that we just kind of attach to people and things, and that the label can sometimes be worse than the disease.
Yes,
You know, so
yes.
I think about that even in my own personal life. There's just certain things I'm like, I'm not associating with that because it doesn't define my
Yeah,
experience,
no,
you know.
doesn't. Well, and to your point, let's talk about this when you're just saying disease. Now, I know that a lot of people would agree with that. They would say, okay, I have a disease. I look at it like, okay, I am using, or I have been using, a highly addictive substance that is societally acceptable. And the more you use a highly addictive substance, of course you're going to start to rely on it.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's not really a disease. You know, some people may still, I think it's whatever you feel like moves you forward in dealing with whatever you're dealing with, that's what you need to call it. For
Right.
me, I was like, okay, yes. And I said this to someone once. I said, well, you know, alcohol isn't broccoli that I'm overindulging in. It's a highly addictive substance that we use to get a hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
So of course we're going to want more. And of course, the more you have, the more you're going to want more. And of course, that's why it feels good after a stressful day to get that 20 minutes of dopamine. And then you go down and you need more, you know, in order to continue to get that. So it's
Mm.
a really complicated thing. And as a society, we have been taught this is how we cope. This is how we celebrate. This is how, you know, there's this whole crazy thing, which I used to be a part of, like, you know, mommy juice, you know, like moms get together and drink. And yeah, I mean, it is just crazy. And look, all the events that we go to in the wellness industry, it's centered around drinking because that's what's socially acceptable. Yeah. So
How did your relationship professionally and personally shift?
great question. You know, I felt like it was a loss of identity. I had so many people in my life who I felt like associated me with a beverage. Isn't that crazy? Like a colored beverage in a glass. I'm like, I'm so much more than that, but it's an identity. So I'm like, if I'm not that, if I'm not the drinker, Delia, who am I? What do I talk about? What do we do at gatherings? I mean, it was such a strange, profound situation. The very first work event that I went to when I wasn't drinking, there was so much, you know, I put a lot of thought into it, you know, but I was like, okay, all I have to do is just go and just talk to the people I want to talk to and then leave. And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And I have realized a lot of people have fallen off from my life because of the not drinking, not in a confrontational way, not in an awful way. It just has sort of happened naturally. And I realized, oh, we don't have anything in common. We don't. And that's okay. Like they were there for a season, and I sort of now qualify who I spend time with. Like, okay, well, would I want to have coffee with you? You know, like, do we need to have drinks? You know, and there are a lot of people who I used to, you know, socialize with thinking that they were friends or, you know, really close. I was like, oh, we didn't really have anything in common at all. Um, yeah, it has been such an interesting thing. I now have this list. I mean, it is literally I actually probably have it right down here, a spiral notebook of all the things that I thought I could never do without drinking. I can do them now. And they're so simple. Eat an Italian meal, go to a movie, Um, just these things and I'm like, oh, well, I can't do that if I'm not drinking. Like, of course I can. It feels strange the first time and I feel itchy and like I want to jump out of my skin. But oh my gosh, I'm just so glad not to have that just perpetual cycle. The cycle just, oh, I'm so glad to be out of it. So, so, so grateful.
What did you have to give up in order to have an alcohol-free life?
It was giving up the mindset that I have to have something. That's the only thing I had to give up was this mindset of like, I have to have this to cope. But really, it's been more of like adding on things that I'm like, okay, instead of having a drink at night, I'm going to take a bath. I am going to, drink sparkling water with fresh cut up citrus in a wine glass and have that experience of, a drink. I'm going to get in bed at 8:30 with a book and I'm going to read the book and I'm going to have a good night's sleep and I'm going to remember what I read the next morning. So it's all the things that I get to add in and routines that I now get to look forward to. I will say I don't go out and socialize as much anymore because I realized I was doing that really for the drinking, not necessarily for the socializing. So it's kind of finding new ways to do things and getting out of those old ingrained habits. Instead of meeting friends for drinks, we go to brunch. I spend every weekend volunteering at the animal shelter, and that doesn't involve drinking. And I have met some of the most amazing people and have amazing conversations. And
Yeah.
that not no alcohol involved.
What was it like? Because you said you said that at the beginning in that January you were going to have a dry January.
Mhm.
What was that first day like when you said, "Okay, I'm not going to drink"?
Um, the first day was okay because I think I'm a very motivated person. And when I set my mind to something, like, okay, I'm going to do it. So the first day was like, I got this. Yep, fine. Okay, yep, gonna fine. Pour my sparkling water, pour my alcohol-free wine or beer, which they have now. That's a whole industry that is exploded and isn't going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, I've got this. Day two, I think it was probably the same thing. Look at me, I'm doing this, I got this, fine. Getting in bed early, feeling good. Day three or four, maybe something stressful happened. Now I don't have my go-to coping mechanism. What am I going to do? And it was just learning to just be uncomfortable and feel those feelings and just sort of write it out at first.
Mm.
And they pass, but it's that knee-jerk reaction. I mean, we're so ingrained and we're so programmed to want to like get through that discomfort. We don't want to feel any discomfort. Like, how can I escape this discomfort? I mean, I think that's a normal human reaction to want to get out of discomfort, but especially if you've been relying on a substance to help you with that, the desire is so strong. So it really is just, it's just taken time and building new routines. But I think the biggest thing that I have learned is just learning to sit in those feelings, whatever they are, and know that they'll pass, whether it's the uncomfortable feeling and it's like, you know what, we're all going to have a bad day, but that doesn't mean we need to escape from it. We can do something that's a little more healthy. Granted, I do now, sugar is my thing now, which I know that's not great either, but I'm like, you know what? If it takes a couple of pieces of dark chocolate at night, not to drink a bottle of wine, fine.
We'll do that. We'll have the chocolate.
We totally will.
We'll have the
And
chocolate.
and I have to be gentle on myself for that. Like, oh, am I replacing one vice with another? No, I'm doing what I need to do right now, and that's just fine.
Yeah. sometimes we have to hold on for dear life, and it's okay. It's not
Yep.
like, you
Yep.
know, it's interesting because I think in my own personal journey, I don't have issues with alcohol, thankfully, because it's in my family on both sides. But I've had to sort of retrain. The other things that come up for me are, and I see myself renegotiating my feelings about how I view the world, how I view people in the world, how I view what's important to me. And there is a moment, and maybe it was a moment similar for you, where I realized what I was doing before is not helping me now. It's not giving me that thing that I thought that I needed. And what has happened as a consequence is that first it wasn't conscious. It was just I noticed that I was just sort of like feeling differently about things and about people and about situations. Then it became conscious. And some people aren't in my life anymore. Not because I don't love them, but they no longer fit what I wanted to have be a part of my life.
Oh,
And those
yeah.
things, they start to fall away. And not that everything's rosy and perfect and that, I'm still a mess most days,
Yeah.
but
We all are. Yeah.
but it's interesting when the shift starts to happen. I think one of the first things that happens is that people start to exit and create
Mhm.
space either for your own thoughts and your own feelings and emotions, or it creates space for the new to come in. And that sounds so like out there, but it's true.
It absolutely is. And I think it's just a natural progression. And it's like when you are opening that up, when you're allowing those things to fall, things or people or whatever to fall away because they're not serving you. Yeah, you're telling the universe and you're projecting that energy like, okay, I'm ready for more, or I'm ready for what is supposed to come in. I'm creating some space for that.
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest things that I have realized through this whole journey, and obviously I'm still very much in it, and we're all in our journey of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Um, but what I thought, to your point, what I thought served me or what I thought I needed, yeah, not necessarily. And just being open to that, also being open to just the realization, I mean, this is like a psychotherapy 101, like you can only control yourself.
Ooh.
Like that is all you can control. And for a long time, I was marching around pissed off at people, drinking at people, like drinking my glass of wine at night. Like, well, if they would just behave like this, then I wouldn't have to drink, or, that type of.
Ooh.
And it's like, come on. I mean, we just can't. Like, people are going to just do whatever they're going to do. And at the end of the day, all we can do is be our very best selves and what we need to do. And that sounds selfish, or it did to me for a while, but it's not. It's the most selfless thing that you can do, because then you're projecting like, okay, if I'm taking care of what I need to do and being the best person, hopefully I'm creating an example, and maybe it's inspiring somebody to do the same, or not even inspiring, just giving them permission to
Hmm.
do that.
So you kind of you alluded to this in what you just said. So you have Sawyer, who's 16, which good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Yes.
But how have you explained this journey that you're on to him?
I've been very open about it. And I think it's so important. It doesn't, I've realized like he has known me as, a drinker, as somebody who uses certain things to cope. I mean, I don't know if he realizes the gravity, but I try to just be really open, like, hey, I'm just figuring myself out, and I've decided not to drink wine anymore because that's what's best for me. Now, of course, being 16, he knows everything. So everything.
Yeah.
Which I did too at that age, and he did. But just really that permission to like, none of us have it all figured out, and we just have to be open to keep learning from other people and like looking around and saying, okay, I like that. Like what they're doing, that feeling that they're evoking, I like that. Like how do I get some more of that? And just being open to that feeling of okay, this doesn't feel good. I need to change that. I need to change course. So,
One thing I love about your story is, and I haven't struggled with it, but it's something that had to sort of own without apology, which is this new thing that I'm working on. It's like I don't owe anyone any explanations, and I don't have to apologize to you if I don't hurt you. If I do something wrong, of course, be quick to apologize when you're wrong. But the idea that I owe you an explanation or that I have to fit into your little bucket of whatever you think I'm supposed to be, like that's quickly evaporating from
that's
my
a big one.
consciousness. But what I love about your story and your life is that, and I'm going to use the word of the moment because I don't know the other word to use, that you comfortably allow yourself to be a multi-hyphenate business person. You own your
Mhm.
own 501(c)(3). You have two 501(c)(3)s. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you're on this journey with changing your relationship to alcohol. You're raising a child. You have a husband. You have a thriving career. You're all these different things. And I think what I love about that, we're probably both Gen X. We were so taught that you were not multiple things. You were like, you had to sit in this one lane and you had to drive in that boring lane the rest of your life because that's what people did. And I love that you just don't.
Well, that was very eloquent how you said that. I think it's taken me a very long time. I mean, I'm a people pleaser in reform.
Mm,
I am one of the things that I learned the most when I stopped drinking was wh- who am I even? What do I like to do? Am I doing this because I think I should do it, or do I really like this? Like,
yeah.
and this ingrained, I think we all too grow up. I love the multi hyphenate thing because it's like we are all multi hyphenates, and I think it's just owning that and figuring out what those things are. But I think one of the things that I've struggled with the most is realize, or at a very young age, I think I equated like how I make people feel is my worth. And if I can walk into a room and change the energy of that room, whatever it takes, whatever I need to say, whatever I need to do, then that's my job. And if
Mm,
I can do that, then that's a job well done, regardless of how it makes me feel or if it depletes me. And that's been a lifetime of conditioning to realize, to say like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be that person today. Maybe I just want to stand in the corner and, you know, talk to you about how I'm feeling today. I don't want to
yeah.
go in and survey the room and be like, okay, what does this situation need and how am I gonna, that's been a huge learning. And part of the whole multi-hyphenate journey is realizing, yeah, I don't owe anyone anything. But that's not how we're conditioned. I feel like we grow up thinking that we owe, like, what is my role? How do I fit this role? How am I checking it off? Checking things off.
Yeah. And being the good kid and being the
Yes.
reliable person and
The
being
reliable, the dutiful, but you stuff a lot of emotions, and you stuff a lot of like identity when you're just being dutiful or trying to check off the shoulds.
mm, the shoulds.
The shoulds.
The
The
shoulds.
shoulds.
I've been
Shoulding,
writing
shoulding
about
all over ourselves.
we're
Yes.
shooting all
Yeah.
over ourselves and like killing ourselves in the process.
Yes.
Um, on this season of the show, I'm exploring. First season was all about saying yes to the unexpected. The second season was about your voice and finding your voice. And this season, I'm talking to people about this concept of legacy because I've been interested in legacy. Of course, it came like what are we leaving behind when we're gone? And I had a woman on the show. Her name is Regina. I just shot with her a few weeks ago, Regina Bain. And she said something that was so profound. She said, we're leaving legacies in people's lives that we don't even know we're leaving,
Yes.
you know? And that like stopped me a little bit. I was like, oh my goodness, talk about responsibility for your behavior and like what you put into the world. But I'm curious what you feel your legacy is, whatever that word means to you.
That is a great question. If you would have asked me that a few years ago, my answer would be different. Asking me that now, I just, I feel like we all have a gift, and our legacy is to figure out what that gift is and actively use it every single day, whatever that looks like. Legacy is a big word. When I think of legacy, I think of, this huge movements and buildings with names on them, but I don't think a legacy is necessarily that. I think it's, yeah, figuring out what that gift is, big, small, whatever in between, and using it every single day, and finding the joy in using your gift or legacy. I think if you would have asked me several years ago, I would have told you that my legacy is to, make an impact in the animal rescue world. And I do definitely feel like that is my legacy. I feel like I am able to communicate with people and use that gift and use the connections and network to help in the animal rescue world.
Mm,
But it's more than that. It's also, realizing just that the journey along the way, like there's not just this ultimate pinnacle that is the legacy. Like if I save this many, then my legacy is fulfilled. You're never going to get there. It's finding those little bursts of happiness or joy or
mm,
connection along the way in utilizing your gift or your legacy.
mm. Julia, thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
sitting.
you. Patrick, what a beautiful conversation, and thank you for asking some kind of tough questions that I've talked about them, but never in this format. But it makes me really happy to, and I hope that maybe some people will listen to this and say, I felt just like she did, and I don't have to stay stuck
Mm.
or, gosh, I want to find my gift. I really hope that that
I,
will be the case.
I hope so too. That's the whole point.
It
That's the
is.
whole point.
Thank you.
Thank
What a
you.
beautiful conversation. And thank you for at the podium and all of the great, connections and people and stories that you're bringing about.
Oh, I love the stories. I love, love, love the stories. I love them. Thank you, Delia. And to those of you who are watching or listening, remember, we all have a voice. We all will leave a legacy. So let's act and be wise. Bye, everyone. Thank you.